Hi, Andy XL back with an NFXL podcast after a week off with illness. Um, Still in my front voice a little bit and the nasal passages, so forgive me if I sound a little bit clogged up and croaky. But I thought I'd have a look at some big news from earlier this week in the Myles, Garrett and AJ Brown trades. So it's been seemingly a matter of time before the Pats acquired AJ Brown, which required waiting until June came around for contractual and salary related reasons. But that deal has now happened but it may well have been trumped by the Rams making a huge move to get Myles Garrett out of Cleveland. So take a look at these moves. What will they tell us in terms of the mindset of the Rams and Patriots going to get their men, and how big a difference these guys can make for them and for the teams they are leaving? So Myles Garrett. The Rams gave up Jared Verse, their 2027 first rounder, 2028 second rounder, and 2029 third round pick to go get Garrett. And the sliding scale of worth of the draft picks they're giving up is the clue to how the Rams see their next 2 to 3 seasons. So Garrett is now 30, turns 31 in late December, and has 9 seasons of excellence, and that's not really high enough for tribute, behind him in the NFL, making the Pro Bowl in 7 of those 9 seasons, being an All-Pro 5 times, winning Defensive Player of the Year twice, and averaging a smidge under 16 sacks per 17 games. Excuse me, coughing and snorting and whatever. I'll keep going with this nice warm drink. So how many with all those years behind him, 9 of them, how many great years does he have left in him? Is the question that you've got to ask regarding this trade. Coming off his record-breaking sack season of 2026, 2027 should not see any drop off his extraordinary levels of performance, really. Overall, he should still be a mighty fine pass rusher for at least another season or two. But as he approaches 32 and then 33 in the following seasons, maybe we might see him become just really, really, really good rather than the true elite pass rusher in the NFL that he currently is. And that seems to kind of fit with the Matt Stafford roadmap for the Rams too, with Stafford having signed an extension through 2027. So for the next 2 seasons, the Rams will likely have Stafford and Garrett on board, or could well have both of them on board, and operating at levels that can win them Super Bowls. Really sorry about this. I'm trying my best. And with others on the roster like Devontae Adams and Boona Ford, also being north of 30 now, Adams is 33. The Rams are clearly doing all they can to bag themselves another Lombardi trophy in the next couple of seasons. Now they have given up a fine young pass rusher in Jared Verse, who has made the Pro Bowl in both of his NFL seasons to date. So again, this says they are willing to give up on the longer term to go get the guy they believe will give them that final piece of the jigsaw right here, right now. Let's go get the best guy to get us over the line. And Garrett also brings experience to what is still a pretty young defense overall, which is another intangible that makes this a strong move by them. Now, Garrett will join Byron Young, who had a Pro Bowl season with 12 sacks himself last season, coming off the other edge position. Opponents are going to need strong O lines to keep those two from devouring their quarterback next season. So it all looks great for 2026 and maybe 2027, but then we get to 2028. Stafford may well retire as soon as he gets a second Super Bowl ring, and if he gets a second Super Bowl ring, and Garrett will be 32 going on 33 by then, with Byron Young also approaching 30, and Adams and Ford also at or past their use by dates. So this is a move akin to those they pulled off when they went and got Stafford prior to the Super Bowl season of 2021-22, a season they incidentally pulled off a mid-season move to go get Odell Beckham Jr. to put the cherry on the cake. So the mindset of the Rams is we are going all in to win now, and we'll deal with down the road when we get there. Now they did some kind of that in the draft this year, which I wasn't a fan of at the time, and it does sort of contradict what they're doing here by going to win now and then seemingly have drafted for the future with the likes of Ty Simpson um, and Keegan Trost and Max Clare. So yeah, I'm not overall enamoured with their overall the draft tallying in with their overall strategy. But this move was what we're looking at, and it's a really good one. So, as I said, so the mindset of the Rams is we're going all into wheel now, and they'll deal with down the road when they get there. And I love it. Too many teams playing for the future when they need to make bold moves to get it done when the chance is there for them to do so, which is why I was critical of their draft strategy, really. But let's get away from that. Adding Garrett to go with the additions at cornerback and the extension for Stafford moves from being a team with a definite shot of winning it all next season to probably being the team everybody that has to beat right now. And with Adams being 33, don't rule out another them making another OBJ type move for a wide receiver from a team that's dropping out of contention prior to the mid-season trade deadline. There's a few out there. That sort of maybe if they go for the slot type that can just fill a position and get them over the line, because obviously they're giving up the draft picks that might be the path that they'd look at to replace Adams otherwise. So maybe somebody who can fill a need at slot and um, be fill any gap that Adams is going to leave at some point. For the Browns, this adds to their trough of future draft capital. But at some point, all those draft picks have to be used to put together a team that can win. And this the rendering of Garrett signals an acceptance from them that 2026 is not the year they are looking at. But with the arrival of Verse and some talent via the 2026 draft and more picks to capitalise on in 2027 and 2028, things can start to turn in in Cleveland in the next 2 to 3 seasons. So this is more of a long term move for them. But overall, it suits both parties. I think it's just the Rams in particular. I think it's a great move for them right here, right now. Right, on to AJ Brown. Sorry, on to AJ Brown. The Patriots did not have to give anywhere near as much up to get Brown, costing them a 2027 fifth rounder and a 2028 first rounder to go get a disenchanted Brown from Philly. Brown is basically the Patriots' replacement for Stephon Diggs, who put up over 1,000 yards with 4 touchdowns for them last season. Added to the arrival of Romeo Doubs, the Patriots have certainly looked to give Drake May the receivers he needs to make a pass offense that was top 5 last season without either of them even better. Brown had a similar yardage-wise to what Diggs produced for the Pats last season, but he's more of a red zone threat and is also 4 years younger. It may be expected that if Brown was unhappy in Philly, his numbers may well bounce back to those of 2022 and 2023, where he was close to 1,500 yards for the season in both of those campaigns. If that happens, then combined with Dubes and the wide receivers they retained from last season in Kayshon Boutte, Matt Collins, and Demario Douglas, they may well have one of the very best pass offenses in the league next season. And that could be particularly important for their matchups with the Bills, as it seems highly likely those two teams will fight it out for the divisional title again in 2026. The Bills have a good pass defense, and the Patriots have certainly seemed to step up here to say, right, we've got to be able to match them in that area. So a good move with potential upside for the Pats, and if Brown can return to his performance of 2, 3 seasons ago. And for the Eagles, it gets them some capital in exchange for a talented player that had negated the positives of that talent by becoming a disruptive presence in the locker room and on the sidelines. So have made their moves in, and they had made their moves in the form of Mackay Lemon, Hollywood Brown, and Dontavian Wicks. Um, and so it makes very good sense for them too. Sorry, I was just having some screen issues there. In other words, I really liked both of those trades, and it should work out well for all 4 teams. But the Rams are the ones that will reap the greatest benefit in the short term for sure. The Pats need to see the Browns um, sorry, the Pats need to see the Brown of Brown and Browns. The Pats need to see the Brown of 2 to 3 seasons ago to make this a really good move rather than a good one. The Eagles need to see Lemon, who can be the long-term successor to Brown, for that to pay off for them. Whilst the Cleveland Browns have to see their drafted talent, including the picks from this deal, play well for them to reap the benefit in the mid to long term. And obviously, Jared Verse needs to show that he can deliver as the main guy for them. So good trades all around for 14, so make really good sense. But the Rams one is the one that really grabs your attention. Obviously, adding somebody like Myles Garrett to an already loaded roster is just yeah. And if they do find a way to add that extra receiver at some point, then this team is just scarily good, potentially. Right, that's how I see that. Next thing I'm going to come back, I'm going to give you four quarterbacks that I think could be in line to have career seasons in 2026. So that'll be my next piece. See you soon.